Welcome to the CAD Office Training Guide series for FDOTConnect. I'm John Mark Palacios, CAD Applications Engineer. Today we'll be going through the FDOTConnect Roadway Design and 3D Modeling Guide. In this course, we'll learn the Bentley Open Roads Designer Connect Edition tools for design and 3D modeling within the FDOTConnect workspace. In this series of videos, I will take you step by step through each exercise from the guide. Today we're going over the next part of Chapter 3 for super elevation. All right, so let's get started. We're going to be digging into the super elevation editor, making edits to the super elevation, calculating the super elevation. We'll show you how to export, import the super elevation, generate reports, and edit it in Excel, and how to create a super elevation diagram. And then, of course, to finish it up, to assign the super elevation to the corridor model and make some edits to the actual point controls after it's been assigned. All right, let's get started. All right, so we have the super elevation shapes. We had calculated it, and now we removed the super elevation because we manually added this curb, the gutter shape, so that this can be treated like a lane and transition as well. So now we need to calculate it again, including this gutter shape. So we have a starting point, and that follows, at least mostly follows the transition. And so let's go to the Calculate Super Elevation tool. So we're going over here in the Corridors tab, and under Super Elevation section, the middle button is Calculate. Just to check, click the drop down to make sure you get the right tool. Calculate Super Elevation is the first tool on the list. So we're just going to select that. So we're at exercise 3.10 here. And this is step 1. Calculate Super Elevation. We locate the section. So click the boundary, this green box around it. Reset to complete. Let's right click. Now once the rules file, and this is similar to what we did before. So we select the F.Super Elevation XML. It should take you to the Super Elevation folder in here. If it doesn't, you have to navigate to your install location, F.Connect, Organization Civil, F.Super Elevation. So I'm going to select that XML file and click Open. And make sure your settings for EL, design speed, pivot method are all set up correctly. So the 5% low speed, F.low speed, 45 mile an hour, inside edge. That's all correct. And I want to check this box to open the editor. And then I'm going to accept all these settings. Now, when it's done, after you accept the open editor, it pops up this thing asking for runtime variables. And this is the same thing that came up before when we did the initial calculation. You just can't see it on my screen because of the display issue, and it needs to be 80. So just double click in here if you can't see it for some reason. It's probably just a display glitch. And just type in the width, pavement to pavement edge, so 80 feet, and then click OK. And it brings up the Super Elevation editor. And you can see in here in this view that the gutter is turning from blue to green to yellow. It's actually lagging behind, so it's not quite right, but it is transitioning. And I think once it's at full super, it's correct. So this needs some adjustment here, looks like, but that's fine. We're going to be doing some edits. So that brings us into exercise 3.11. And actually, we don't need the super elevation editor, so it probably doesn't matter whether you check that box, but it's good to see it just to see if it generated correctly. So this red line here, this would be the gutter. And you can see the names down here. There, it does have points. It's been generated. So that's good. So I'm going to close this out. So we're going to generate a report right now and also export this so that we can edit it in Excel, just because some people do their own calculations, so we need an import-export process too. So we're going to do super elevation report. So this is going to be exercise 3.11, page 3-13. And we go over here to this button right here, the little paperclip icon beside the super elevation cross section. Or it looks like the Windows icon, honestly, but anyway. So paperclip and Windows icon. Super elevation report. Click that, and it asks you to locate the first super elevation section. So I'm going to click this green box around the super. And then reset to complete. And I have a report. The report browser opens up, super elevation data. First check, the station value is not set correctly. It's not formatted right, so we need to adjust some formatting options. To do that, we're going to go here to the Tools menu and go to Format Options. And this is outlined what it needs to be in step 3 on page 3-14. See, slope precision. That's probably good, but it does need to be percent format. So change this to 50%. The alternate slope, so if it exceeds 0, it's going to the alternate slope. Well, that doesn't make any sense, so let's put that to 10%. Oops, 0.1, because it's not in percent. You don't type it in percent. It isn't displayed in percent. And alternate slope 0.1, and then linear precision. This would be like your lengths and things. So let's put that to 4 decimal points. And let me see. Well, actually, linear precision, and we clarify, gets used in the export process because it cannot be in a percent format. So I think we're using linear on that. So that we need more decimal points on that. Station precision, just 2 decimal points. We don't need to go to the 100 station. Here's the station format. This should be SS plus SS.SS. And that should do the trick. Let's close that and see how it looks. It's a little better. So we got kind of 4 digits of cross slope. You can see that 9.375 on the gutter and normal crown. So this divides it up by lane, and you can see the stations or transition, everything. Transition type is a parabolic curve. This is per the FDM standards. You're supposed to have a curve of the transition. So this is the point where it transitions, but it's a curve shape. So these all been set to parabolic curve by default. So we're going to go to different report. This is the super elevation calculation.xsl. Just wanted to show you what's going on here, so why the gutter is transitioning differently. So if you look at the radius, here it's 921. And here it's, this outside line is 891.9966. Here it's 881. So basically everything's doing their own super. Well, that's, this one's okay. This one's okay. But this one is not okay. Everything should be based on 881. So you can see the max E value, because you're using a different radius, is completely different. So that's just a quirk of ORD. When you calculate super elevation, I think when you recalculate, it doesn't do it correctly. It might have had it correct the first time. I feel like that's hit and miss. So that's why you pretty much are forced to do some manual edits on this. But the useful thing to know is that at the center line, it's correct. So go for the lane closest to the center line. Basically, what it's doing is it's measuring the radius for each lane. So this lane is at the center line. Actually, both these lanes are at the center line. So those values will be correct. But this one is 10 feet over, so it adds 10 feet to the radius. So obviously that's not correct for doing the Emax calculation. And I wanted to see if the Centerline null to right PGL. Yeah, it doesn't even, looks like it doesn't even have a separate one for that right side, so I guess it's using this one. You know, go figure. It's weird. But so this is what we should be at 2.4%. So I'm going to export it. So we need to go to, this is step 5 of this exercise. We're still in exercise 3.11. And this is the top of page 3-15. Underscore super elevation to CSV. This is based on ORD's delivered version, but they actually had issues with their delivered one, so we corrected them in this. So use the FDOT super elevation to CSV file. They may correct. We have reported those to issues with Bentley. Hopefully they'll correct them in a future release. But as of 10.8 and the FDOTConnect 10 versions that run on 10.8 has not been corrected. And let's see. So this one looks okay. The formatting still looks okay. So here's where we get that 4 decimal points for linear. This is actually our cross slope, but we want to make sure we keep this 4 decimal points. It cannot be in a percent here. It won't import correctly if it is, so it's got to be in this decimal format. You can see the station. You see the lane. This is all just comma separated. This is the RS for... So what is RS stands for? I can't remember. NC would be normal crown. LC would be level crown. FS would be full super. And then I think there's a few others in here. Here's a reverse crown. RC would be reverse crown. This last one is actually hard-coded in at 75. It imports, but it won't export. That's the parabolic. Well, the PC is for parabolic curve transition, and this would be the radius, the length of the parabolic curve. You can change it, but don't bother changing it if you're going to export it. Don't bother changing it before you export. Change it after you import it again, because like I said, this is just hard-coded. Whatever you change it to, it's going to say 75 here. It's hard-coded in the report, only because that information is not accessed unless Bentley fixes that. So this looks okay. We just need to save it, and it's a CSV file. So we just go here to File menu and choose Save As, and it's taking us back to this FDOTConnect super elevation folder. Not helpful for this one. We need to go to our workset folder. So we go to worksets folder, FDOT, and this workset, it's a 22049555201_CE, in the roadway folder, and change this save as type right here. It says XML. Change it to .txt. It's a text file that we need to save. So we're going to call this SR61_SE and put in the .csv. It'll make it easier to open it without having to. You can just open it from File Explorer, so it makes it a little easier. You just double click on it. Otherwise, you'd have to do File Open in Excel if you don't do the CSV. So that looks good. We got in the right folder. It's saving as text. If you save as XML, it's not going to be the right data. All right. So I think I've got my roadway folder open here in File Explorer. See if I can make it a little bit cleaner so you can see it easier. Oops. Okay, so the work sets folder, wherever that is, probably on the level C drive, and just go to your roadway folder, and we're going to open this up. So this is exercise 3.12. Now I should go ahead and close out this report browser. We don't need that open anymore. So go to File Explorer, navigate to this path. There's a quick shortcut to do that. Actually, I should show you. So if you go to the FDOT tab of the ribbon, and there's an option right here, Explore Directories. You can go to Current Workset. It's right here under the Resources. And that will open up File Explorer directly in that workset. So we've got the SR61 underscore SCs is the one we just created. So let's just double click, open that in Excel. Some extra files outline for this course. Let's see. So that looks good. It came in. So we just need to clean this up, and this is just a little bit manual effort. So basically this one is good. So we need this one and this one to match it. So this is the null to the left PGL, the left PGL to the left pavement out. So the null is a center line. So that's this line here. The left PGL, the left pavement out is the main part of the roadway. And then we got the gutter. So these stations should match. So what I'm going to do is copy the values from columns B through G of the CL null to LTPG. So I'm just going to click right here on B22, and I'm going to hold shift and click on G31. And then I'm going to right click on that, choose copy. And then I'm going to come over here to this station, the LTPGL, LTPVT, UP out, and paste right there. So I'm just going to undo that real quick so you can see the difference it made. So you can see, yeah, it changed these values, primarily the Emax values. So that cleans it up to match for that lane. Just need to clean it up for the gutter. Now the gutter isn't going to match exactly, so there's a little bit of copying, pasting, as well as adding new rows. So this is spelled out in step 3 is what the values should be on page 3-17. So you probably want to reference that. So this is 0.09 decibels. Okay. So I'm looking at this, everything, check to see if it looks good. So I've got my station formatting right. And this number is not right, actually. 0.0938. So it should be 9.375%. It does need to be in a decimal format, not a percent, but we just need another digit. So to set that, let's go back to Tools, Format Options, and remember I said here we're using the linear one for this, just because we got to force it to be decimal. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adds one more digit. There we go. Just to keep that precision on the gutter line. So this one, just so you know what these mean, this is normal crown, LC is a level crown, FS is a full super, RC would be reverse crown, PC would stand for the parabolic curve, and then this 75 here is the length of the curve. 75 is not gonna is hard coded, so if you change the PC, it's still gonna say 75 in this report, only because that information is, at least currently in this version 10.08 sorry, of ORD, does not export the length of the parabolic curve on these transitions. So, but it will import it. So we've hard coded it, so there's a field for it. If you want to change in Excel and import it, you can do that, or otherwise just make changes after you've done an import-export process if you need to do that for any reason. All right, so we're going to save this as a CSV file. This brings us to, see, we're step 6 of exercise 3.11, page 3-15. So we're just going to do File, Save As. and it may take you to the C drive, somewhere else in the C drive. It's probably going to take you by default to the super elevation folder in the F.Connect. Don't save it there. Make sure it's your project folder. So I would just go to your worksets folder, navigate to it, go to this workset 220495555 201 underscore CE, go to the roadway folder, and then change the save as type to .txt. We need a CSV file, which is a text file. Comma separated values, it stands for. It's a text file. And then we're going to name it SR61 underscore SE dot CSV So I was messing with it. It's already had it open, so I just got to close it out so I can override it. So SR61 underscore SE dot CSV. And we're going to save that. Make sure everything looks right. Okay. In your case, this shouldn't come up, but if you're doing a re-export, like if you're correcting something, you might be overwriting it. It depends on what you're trying to do. Just be aware of what that's going to do. It's going to overwrite it. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. I'm done with this report browser. And that brings us to exercise 3.12, which is we're going to open the CSV in Excel and edit it. So the easy way, we need to go over to File Explorer. Easy way to do that. If I go to the F.dot tab of the ribbon, and then I go over here to Resources, this button says Explore Directories. I'll bring up the drop down. You can see there's a couple directories. I can do this is the install directory. I want to go to the current workset directory, so I'm going to select that, and it opens up File Explorer with pointing to that directory. So it makes it a little easier than having to navigate to it. And here's a CSV file that I just exported. So I'm going to double click to open that up in Excel. There it is. If I double click on these, I can kind of see the full value, see what's going on here. All right, so we need to do, so we have the lanes here. This one's okay. The centerline null, remember the two that are touching the centerline null are fine. Well, this one's fine as well, so we'll leave those alone. But we need to correct this, the LTPGL, the left pavement out, and the gutter. So what I'm going to do is just click here on B22, this first of the centerline null section, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and go over here to G31, which is the bottom right of that section, and I'm going to do copy. So I'll just do right click and copy, and then I come over here to the LTPGL, LTP to UP out, that first one, that's B11, and I'm just going to paste right there. Now, if you blinked, you missed the change. So I'm just going to undo that for you so you can see it happening. Look right here at this these numbers, a 0.0234. I'll make it a little bit bigger if it makes it easier to see it. And so we got the 0.0234. That was what it calculated. And then when I pasted it, apparently it's going to undo my zooming. I'll just paste it again, okay. All right, so when I paste it in, then it changes it to 0.024. So it matches these numbers. That's what it should be. That's the max. That's the full super is 2.4% on this project. Now we need to change the gutter one. And so this is 0.09375. That one's good. That's a normal crown. This one looks okay. And this is the normal crown. The station's probably going to need to get edited. So if you look at the table on page or on step 3 of this exercise, which is on page 3-17 at the top, kind of explained what the transitions need to be. So for this one, for these transitions, the standard plans spell out a lot what it needs to be. For the gutter, it doesn't spell out necessarily what it needs to be. It just spells out that it needs to have a transition. That it needs to, well, it implies that there's a transition because you can't just jump from 0.9375 to 0 and then go from there to following this, right? So, but this parabolic curve, not necessary for a curve slope. So we're just going to change to L, which is for linear. And I'm going to grab this handle here and make that change for all of these on the gutter. We can leave that alone. It's going to ignore that because it's set to linear. First, I'm going to count the columns to see if I need any extra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there's 8 in the chart there, and there's 8 here. If yours for some reason doesn't have 8, you might need to add a column here, put the right station at maybe at the beginning and end. Sometimes I've seen it come through where it doesn't get the second station value, but in this case it did, so that's good. So these two are good. Now here's the thing that needs to change. Let's go from, well, first of all, this is 0.024. And this station should match. So once we're on the inside, should match this, everything should match this left lane once you get to 0. So what I'll do is I'll take this one at 0, 704 plus 70.80. I'll copy that, paste it over here at the 0 slope, level crown, I should say, paste it there. This one has the reverse crown. The gutter doesn't have a reverse crown, so it's an extra station. So then I'm going to take these two at 0.024. Actually, I'm going to take this whole thing, select all 4 of these, B and C, 15 and 16. Copy that, and then paste it over here on B5. And that should override all of these. So that makes these match. And then I'm going to take this, let's see, the one at 0 again, 714 plus 24.09. I'm going to copy that and paste it here at the level crown station, which is B7. Paste it there. Okay, so now, and the ends are good because that's just beginning and end station, but this one is too long of a transition for the gutter, because the gutters are just going to be 0.909375 theoretically until you hit 0. Well, we can transition it. We need to transition it because you don't just jump from 0.99375 to 0. You should transition, but it only needs a transition over a few feet. And this is really up to you, but I just said 10 feet sounds reasonable. If you think it's not, that's your project, and there's no standard on that I can tell. If you find something, let us know. We'll put it in, but I haven't found any standard. Standard plans just says the gutter needs to follow it on the high side, and that's all we're trying to do here. So I'm going to make this 7. I'm just going to make it 10 less. So 703 plus, oh, let me just copy this one. It's 704, not 703. Paste it here. And then I'm going to change the 70.81 to 60.81, so it's 10 foot. And I'm going to do similar over here. I'm just going to copy this value at 0, paste it down here, over here, and then set this to add 10. So I'm going to say 34.09. And should do it. Yes. You know, if you don't like the gutter being 0 right here, even you might be able to play with this number too. But it's this is matching the letter of the standard plans. So everything's at for full super, you can check it's all at 0.024 on full super. So I think we're looking good. And let's see. We know that these match. These aren't gonna match those, but they should match each other. So it looks good. No, 76 plus 1. Yeah, so this where this starts is where this should be reverse crown. So that matches 706 plus 1.72. And on this side, 712 plus 93.18, it matches the reverse crown here. So that's good. That makes sense. That should be matching. And of course, the full super should also be matching. So you can double check that if you want. It looks good. All right, so then just save this. Keep it in the CSV format. If it gives you any complaints about the format, don't worry. Just keep it in that format. All right, so now we're going to go to exercise 3.13. So go ahead and close out of Excel. Now we can import this in. Go back to ORD. And, this is repeating exercise 3.8, which is opening the super elevation editor. So let's go do that. So we go to corridors. And over here in this top right, click the drop down and choose super elevation editor. And ask you to locate the super elevation section. So I'm going to click that. Now I already have super in here, so I can't import it with already in here. So this first row is selected. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to hold down shift and click right here on the left side. So everything is blue, everything's selected. And then I'm just going to delete it. We're going to pull it in from the imported version instead. So now I can do that right here. This little button that says import super elevation transitions. It looks like the down arrow pointing beside the Windows icon. And it goes over here to the minimizes that window and asking for the file name. So I'm going to click the three dots to select my file. It's trying to take me to the super elevation folder again. Not helpful. Go down to your worksets folder. FDOT, this workset name. Roadway. And there's my CSV file. Found it. So select that and open. If for some reason it doesn't say CSV, make sure you select that. Click open, and then it populates the file name and the path in there. You can check it if you want. And I'm just going to accept. It does pop up this little thing on the import. It should automatically pick it up because all the names we left as default. But it's worth checking, and if for some reason you edited the names in there, you'll have to tie it to the names in here. So this would be useful, for example, if you got your own spreadsheet and you're trying to generate your own, your naming might not match exactly, so you can double check it here and make sure it lines up to your intent. So I'm going to click OK on that, and there's my super elevation diagram. So you can see the gutter just jumps up. This one has the parabolic curves. I think this is my left side, the left PGL. So this is at station 703 and change. So it's this one here, the 703 plus 39.90. It's got a parabolic transition. If you scroll to the right, there's a few other options too. But this is the main ones of concern. So you got the nonlinear curve length. So since it's parabolic, this is 75, and this was imported. So if we wanted to change that, we could have in Excel if it's easier to work with. I find, honestly, Excel's a little bit easier to work with, so that might be something that's worth doing the export-import process. You just, as long as you're familiar with the naming convention and all of that. And if you're not comfortable doing that, you can certainly make edits right here. In fact, all the edits we just did, we could have done right here. It's just I can't copy and paste certain columns like I did in Excel. I can't, that won't work the same way it does, even though I can select it like that, it will not copy and paste multiple ones in the same fashion. All right, so you can just take a look at this, check your diagram if you want, zoom in, see how everything looks. But I think we're good to go. I'm just going to close this out. We'll go on to the next exercise. It's looking at super elevation diagram. Exercise 3.14 is actually on page, maybe page 3-17. Let's see. So we're going to open the super elevation diagram. So we go to the corridors here. This is another new feature in ORD, actually. So I want to go to this last button here, open super elevation view. Just click that, select the section. So I'm going to click this green box. And it asks me select or open a view. So I'm just going to open up view 2. No, let's do view 3. We got 3D view. Oh, I should open the view first. Okay. I'm going to run the command again. Select the section, select the view. So here is a super elevation diagram, which gives you a lot more power than in the super elevation editor, because I can actually grab these and edit them. Now look, I moved the station. I also broke it, so be careful what you do. But it is nice if you want to be able to do a graphical edit. You do have the options for it here. You're still limited. Just you can grab these handles, and that's about it. If you have these constrained in some way, there are options in the super elevation editor that can constrain them. Then you may not have handles in all the points, but because we imported it, it doesn't import any constraints. So there's no constraints. If you open this on a new one that was just calculated, it may be fully constrained. So you'll only have on like one of the profiles the option to edit it, and everything else will follow. One of the, I guess it's a profile, it's fair to say. So you can certainly play with that if you want to do it visually. That's another option for you. So I'm going to go ahead and just save settings on this file with the super elevation diagram open. And now we're ready to go over to the model file and attach the super. It looks good if you want to zoom in, zoom out on it to check, but we'll go ahead and open up the model file that we need to attach it to. So this is going on the main line. It's actually going to go in both the main line and the detail model files because of that gutter. So we'll show you how that works. So this is exercise 3.15. I'm just going to go to open. I'm going to browse to the modlrd mainline 61.dgn. So it'd be in your Roadway folder for this work set. Click open on that. Give it a second. Just reference it in. Can't do anything if that file is not referenced in. So I'm going to go over here, make sure the 2D view is active. And I'm going to attach it. I'll go to my attach references. And over here, attach reference. I'm going to attach the ALG and RDO1. Now, watch carefully. Change the model. We already have the default model attached. We need the super elevation model. So change the model here to super elevation. And then click OK on this properties dialog. So don't forget to do this, because otherwise you're just attaching the alignment twice and it's pointless. So when you do that and you have the super elevation model, it should bring in the shapes. So there's my super elevation shapes. Now they cover everything up. Can't see anything, but they're there. All right, so that's progress. Now we go into the next exercise, 3.16, which is let's look at the cross section, because we got 3D view, that's all good and well, but you can maybe put in isometric, but I can't really tell in here when I've applied the super. So if I hold down here, I can bring up view control, and I'm going to do plan, cross-section, and 3D for my views. So this option here. It asks me to select OK to create a dynamic cross-section view, so I click OK, and I want to pick the corridor. So let me just set these short corridor handles, and then select over here in view 7, and open the view there. Now we still, I think, have an issue with that view control in that it changes the view over here. Change it to view 2, change it from view 2 to view 3. So let me just close out view 3 and go back to view 2 because it's already set up. And I'll save settings on that. So I got my cross section over here. Now to make it more useful than it is, I mean, it's great. You can see it. First, if you hold down control on this thing as you're zooming, because I usually zoom with the scroll wheel. I don't know why random things are coming up here. Hit the Windows button instead of control. Anyway, if you hit control, it does the vertical exaggeration. You can also go here to view properties and specify, let's say I want it to be 10. And okay, so I can see the cross slope a little bit better. And if I move forward, it would be tedious to do it one by one, but I can do it one by one here. I'm going to right click here and do locate station via data point. And I'm going to come over here in view 1 and come over here around the transition area. And you can see no super yet. We haven't applied anything. All we did was reference it in. So you can see it's a normal crown, which is fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click in the cross section view. Right click and hold to get this menu up. And I'm going to place a horizontal temporary dimension. This is step 4 on this exercise. So I want to basically snap to this point in the friction course here. That's a start, and then snap to this point here as my end point. So there we go. It's 29 feet, 2%. So it gives the slope and the horizontal. I want to do the same thing on the right side. 29 feet, negative 2%. Now I also want to do it here for this center line just so I can see what it's doing. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to snap. Well, it doesn't seem to have a good snap point there. What I'm going to do, I probably should have done this before I change the station. I'm going to locate station by data point and come back here into the turn lane section. So then I have a point I can snap on over here. So I'm going to go back to this command, place horizontal temporary dimension. I'm going to snap here, and I'm going to snap. So it should be going to this blue point right there. That's the center line null. So I got 11 feet, 2%. I'm going to start there, and I'm going to end it here, and that's 11 and 2%. And then over here, before I change the station, I just want to keep it here. So I'm going to go to view properties here and do center on current offsets. And then I'm going to go back and locate station by data point. So right click and hold. This is step 8 here. Going back to that. Okay, station by data point. Select this view, and I'm going to go somewhere near the transitions. Go over here to the super elevated section so you can see a more dramatic difference. So all these dimensions stay here. This is good. So everything's still at 2%. Nothing's applied yet. but at least we can see what it is and we can see when it changes. So that readies us for exercise 3.17. We're going to assign the super elevation to the corridor. Close out of this so I can see my view over here. So I'm going to go here to corridors in the ribbon. And I'm going to go to the super elevation section, and it's right under the calculate menu. So click the drop down, and the very last option is assign the corridor. So after we've done everything else, we're assigning it to the corridor. It asks me to locate the super elevation section. So that's the green box that you have referenced in here. And then reset to complete. And now it asks me to locate the corridor. So I need to get this corridor handle. It won't let me select the template handle. It's kind of right on top of it. You might have better luck coming here in the middle somewhere where you can see the corridor handle without the overlap from the super boundary. So just select that. And then it's going to show you some points here. So we just need to verify whether or not they're correct. And it should, because remember, it generated all of these from the template. So it should get them right, but it's worth checking. So I'm going to start here in the center. So center line null to left PGL. It pivots about the center line. Well, actually, maybe I should start about the right side because I was pivoting about the right side in this case. So pivot point for this right lane is the pavement out, and then super elevates the PGL. For this middle lane, this median lane here, the pivot's at the right PGL, which is this point, and this point gets super elevated, the center line null. And then for this one, the pivot point is center line null. The super elevation point is LT PGL. That looks good. For this lane, the pivot point is LT PGL. And the super elevation point is LT PVT UP out. So that looks good. The only thing is the gutter. There's no gutter in this file. We can't just delete it from here. We got to put something. So it's going to generate an error. Like it'll generate an error if I leave it blank. So what I'm going to do is just put in any value here. I can do centerline null. Doesn't matter. Whatever comes up there for super and pivot point, they just can't be the same points. It's going to give us an error that, we have it super elevated twice because I already have this elsewhere, right? That's fine. Let's not worry about that. It just won't be super elevated properly until we fix it. So I'm going to click OK. See, it says error recursive super elevation control added but not enabled. So we'll fix that. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to reprocess. I made some changes. Some things look weird. Don't worry about that right now. That's kind of it was to be expected at this point in time. Let's see. So that's the next exercise, 3.18. We're going to look at the super elevation point controls. So super elevation essentially creates a point control. So if I go here to my corridor objects, I can do it there, or I could just grab this corridor handle and I can do it from there. So I've got it right here. Should be in one of these here. Yeah, corridor creation tools, a little hammer. And the bucket is the first one in the list, the corridor objects. So I'm going to bring that up. I see my 3 template drops. Let me go down here to point controls. And I got a few too many, right? So look for the one over here. Let me make this bigger. Look for the one over here that's the super elevation for the gutter. We just need to delete that one. So this one here, you can see, okay, it's the LTPGL. This is the lane that it's applied to. So I just need to delete this first one that's for the gutter because there's no gutter in here. And there it is. Now it's looking better. You can see in the 3D view, it cleaned that up. You don't have those weird glitches. And over here, it's at 0.771 over there, and it's at 2% over there. So it's starting to process the transition. So at this point, you can just look through the cross sections and see what it does. If I hit my arrow, we can move forward, and you can watch the value going up. So 1.26, Or I can right click and locate station by data point and just jump ahead here and make sure the full super is right. We're still not at full super. We come a little bit farther. It's almost a full super. There we go. Now we're at full super there. So that's helpful. You can check those numbers, make sure everything's working okay. And sometimes it's useful. You can check it if you want to check it in the turn lane areas. See what that's doing. So you can see that center line has slopes. So you can see the turn lane slopes too because it's constrained to that center line null. So that works okay. Actually works fine because you want this side to all be the same. You don't want to add a break, even though right here it's crossing the center line. Because of the turn line, you still want this turn line all the way here. So it looks good, and it's still going about the center line here. So basically you got this 1% slope from here to here. It doesn't follow this. So it's following this point to this center line null. So it's still maintaining the correct super elevation, even though this part is going like 2% the whole way out. So it's worth checking. Check whatever you need to check on this, but I think that pretty much wraps up the exercises for super. Thanks for joining me today for the CAD Office series for FDOTConnect. This was the super elevation chapter, chapter 3 of the FDOTConnect Roadway Design 3D Modeling Guide.